On
Yeah, you were
the
only
building,
2-3 years old.
yeah, the buildings and so forth were still there. And then this fellow named Homer Smith moved up there with his family, and he ran a gravel business. And he had quite an operation. He would sell gravel in different sizes. It's all called down to different sizes. Sell it by the truckload. And
who's this? The owner of the?
he was a guy who rented the property up at St. Thomas Home.
Ah.
And was he making the gravel out of the rocks?
He was taking those nice white rocks and stones on the beach. He was taking the beach and selling that.
Oh my goodness! Wow. So, what is this about?
Oh, that okay. We were talking about the trap fishermen. Some of the fishermen had shanties over on Gardiner's Island. Henry Rackett was one of them. My grandfather used to live on board the boat and also, come back. John Vale and some of them, and Frank Tuttle were on the other side of Gardiner's Island, down by Tobacco Lot Bay there. And they lived there all summer and bring their families over, their kids and their wives. And it was one glorious long summer, picking beach plums and having picnics and just living in the shanty and going swimming and so forth.
Wow.
So,
Sounds idyllic.
yeah.
Did you ever participate in any of the ice harvesting out on Marion Lake?
No, that was gone before I came along. I remember Gene Brooks used to use one of the old ice saws for cutting firewood. And I remember the ice tools, the different tools they used to do that. There were quite a few of them kicking around years ago. I guess they're all gone now. In the springtime, the fishermen would have to tie their nets. And there were there were 3 tar pots. These big iron kettles that they used to use for trying down whale blubber, that type of, and they used them for dipping hogs in when they wanted to get the hair off of them.
Yikes.
Anyhow, so they take one of these big pots and build a brick fireplace around it, so they could build a fire under it and heat the tar up to thin it out. And there was a big reel and an inclined lattice type platform, so that they put the nets in the tar pot and pull it up over the reel, and some guy up there would reel this stuff out of the tar pot, and it would go up on that lattice work, and the tar would run out of it and back into the pot. Then they'd pull it, after it dripped for a while, they'd put it in a wagon and bring it out on a lot, stretch it out to dry. And before tarring time, the women would have baked ham, because ham fat is the best thing in the world to get tar off with. So they cut the rind and the fat off and have that ready when the guys got finished with their tarring. And everybody get a big chunk of that, and you rub it on your hands and face or anywhere else. They'd wear old clothes and stuff, but they'd be all full of tar. And the ham fat would take that right off. And you can remember that, because bacon fat will do the same thing if you get it on you at home, So
Why did they tar the nets anyway? What purpose did that serve?
Just a preservative. It was to keep marine growth off and to keep the worms out of it and so forth, just to keep it from getting rotten. And
So, this year is the 70th anniversary of the big hurricane of 1938.
oh yeah.
Do you have any recollection of that?
Yeah, it's the first time in my life I prayed. I was so scared. 38, I was 11 years old. Anyhow, we lived in the old store, upstairs in the old store. And we were in school, and the storm was pretty bad. Of course, us kids didn't know how bad it was, but at one point some man came in to talk to Mr. Morton, and I guess they talked it over whether or not how they're going to get the kids home or let them out. So he let us out of school. We got lined up by the door, and he gave us explicit instructions. Don't go under that tree. There was a big maple tree out in the front yard. Don't go under that tree. So the first 6 or 8 boys out of the school went right under that tree. Naturally. Anyway, nobody got hurt. We got home. My sister and I and a girl that lived down on Bay Avenue got to the store, and there was an inset door in the front of the store with big windows, glass windows on each side, and we stood in there out of the wind for a while, and we figured, well, we can't stay here forever. So this other girl said, well, I'm going to go home. So she walked down to Bay Avenue, and my sister and I got around the side of the house and went up the back stairs. And we were in there quite a while. The storm got so bad. There was an outside stairs on our house with a nice landing and a roof. And my mother figured she'd better close the storm door, so she went out there and managed to get that door shut somehow and hook it. And she came around through the hall, and just as she got to the dining room windows, stairs and all went flying past the window.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And then shortly after that, there was 2-level roof. There was a kitchen here and a roof here with another high chimney. That chimney came off and went right through the kitchen roof, and it was plaster dust all over the place, and which turned mucky, you know, because of the rain. And my father and great uncle were out in the barn splitting wood, and they saw the chimney come in, so they came in the house to see if anybody was hurt. Neglected to close the barn doors, and that barn went up in the air like a cardboard box, and came down out in the lot out back.
Were there animals in the barn?
No, only chickens.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the barn went into splitters, and all the chickens came back. I don't know where. They probably got blown up in the woods or something.
Wow.
And my ducks survived. And let's see. Oh, so they decided we can't stay here because the house was shaking pretty bad. And so we went downstairs, opened the back door to the store to go through the back and get into the harness room, which was on the east side. And when the back door was open, those front windows blew in, and there was glass flying everywhere. None of us got hurt from it.
Wow.
My sister had the cat, and the cat was so scared it tore her arm to pieces.
I bet,
Yeah.
but she held on to it.
No, it got loose.
Oh. Did it come back too?
Yeah, there was a place in the store, in the floor, where there was a hole, like a access hole to get underneath. He went down in there and stayed there.
Smart.
So we got out in the harness room, and my father had a piece of rope, and he latched the door, and he also put turned around the handle on the door and stood there holding that, and that's where we spent the rest of the storm. And I watched Frank Tuttle's roof, which is to the east of us, and it had a tin roof. It was like a hip roof, and one corner of that tin was moving, and pretty soon it rolled up one side and right down the other.
Wow.
And that's about it. But after it was over, my sister and I went outside to look, and we couldn't. It just seemed like we were on a different planet because nothing was familiar. The trees were down, the fences were gone.
Wow.
There was stuff all over, and the houses were painted white, but on the south side, all of a sudden they were green. The leaves, I guess, pulverized it against the
Wow.
side. So that's that part of it for me.
Did you know of anybody that was out on a boat when that was happening?
Yeah, Mike Brown and his crew on board Loretta, they were out. They fished over by Napig, between Napig and Montauk,
Mm-hmm.
and they were out to hold traps early, and it got pretty bad, so they figured they couldn't finish. They managed to get back on board the sloop, and it just got bad. It just got worse and worse, and they hauled both Sharpies in on deck and lashed them down upside down on the hatches, and did the best they could. They had two anchors out, two big anchors. One of them, the line parted on. They had 2-inch manila on there, and one line parted, and the other one held them eventually. Both Sharpies went overboard, went under the boat, under the sloop, and back up, and they wound up on the west side of Gardiner's Island, and the engine, they had an old 4-cylinder T-head Lathrop engine in there, and that thing, there was water halfway up the engine, but it kept it going and it going.
Wow.
He just
Wow.
had it going. He didn't have it couldn't help him. He just had it running, left it running.
What's a Sharpie? What you're talking about?
Oh,
that one?
boat, flat bottom boat. They
That's
call
what I
them.
thought.
I think nowadays they call them skiffs or something like
Oh.
that. Flat iron boat, like
So they rode out the hurricane on the boat.
on the slope, on the fishing slope. Yeah.
Wow.
Mike stood in the back companionway, trying to hold the water out, and they, like I say, they wound up. That one anchor that held hooked that submarine cable that came over from Fireplace Point to Gardiner's Island, and that's what held them. But anyway, they came into Greenport, and they were so weak they couldn't get a line on the dock.
Wow.
And anyway, they got home okay. He walked home from Greenport. Other guys were in Greenport, and when he came in the yard, his father was crying because he thought he was dead. Naturally, you would. So yeah, they had it bad. They of course didn't expect to survive it, because one of the fellas, I worked with this crew when I was fishing. And the old fellow that was a cook, he was on there then, and he said it was, and this was about a 40-foot sloop, a workboat, heavy boat, like a big hand pressing the boat down into the water. And Hallie Vale was part of the crew. He was a strong man, and he made a break. He wanted to get into the after cabin from up forward, and he came out of the after cabin, but he had to hang onto the mast for a while until he could make it. But he did get back there eventually.
Wow. Is Howie Vale or Mike Brown, are they around still?
Not now, no.
Do you know any other people that might have gone through the hurricane of '38 that had interesting stories?
I think they're probably, there's a very interesting story by Gert Reeves's mother,
Is this
Fanny King. She was on board the Shinnecock, coming from New London. You probably read that story.
I saw an interview. I think
Oh.
she was going to New London, and they got almost over, and then it blew them back, and they
Yeah.
went
Right.
to Riverhead. The boat
Yeah.
went, and then it blew them back to
Yeah.
New London,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and no one was hurt on the boat. She said.
that's amazing. Mm.
Why don't we stop for a second?
Okay. So, no, it's okay. We can-
How did you folks meet?
In school, in history class.